All right, class, welcome to week 7 here. I'm out in my shop again, and I got the camera rolling. I'm gonna go over some of the equipment we can use, or equipment we should plan to bring with us for a day of steelhead fishing. And some of this stuff, you know, some things might be more important for winter steelhead versus some things might be more important for summer steelhead. I find that, there's just some general things that I'm gonna bring just about every time I go out. And so I'm just gonna go over kind of the basic general stuff. I like to keep a list. I gotta have a little mental list that I check through every day before I hit the water. I'm also pretty lucky. Most of the time I'm fishing out of my boat, so a lot of this stuff is just in my boat and it stays there. I never take it out. But this list can be adapted to if you're going out and fishing from the bank or maybe going and fishing somebody else's boat or whatnot. One thing you'll notice about the way I have my gear set up is that I really like to use either tackle bags like this or bins like this, or even, for my waders or whatnot, bigger bins like that, so that I have all of my gear in one confined area. And that, if I'm going to go fishing, I can just grab the bins that I need and put them in the car, put them in the boat, and boom, I'm good to go. So first thing we're going to discuss here is waders. I think if you're going to be really serious about steelhead fishing, especially winter steelhead fishing, you need to have yourself a pair of waders. Waders are just like waterproof bibs. Usually you're gonna have a pair of boots that you attach on the bottom, but some waders come with boots pre-attached. Whatever style you end up choosing, and there are a lot of different styles. There's Gore-Tex waders, there's neoprene waders, there's Gore-Tex-like material that's a little bit cheaper. Whatever you choose, try and get the best set of waders you can with whatever your budget is. The better quality waders you have, the more comfortable it's going to be out there fishing. Personally, I like wearing Gore-Tex waders because they breathe. So if I'm moving around, I'm not going to create too much of a sweat. That being said, I've worn just about every type out there: neoprene, Gore-Tex alike, so cheaper versions of Gore-Tex waders. And in all honesty, if all you're going to be doing is fishing steelhead in the wintertime, neoprene's actually pretty nice because it does keep you warm. If you do fall into the river, neoprene floats, so that can give you some extra flotation and make you a little bit safer. So jumping in here, the most important thing with waders is that after you get your waders on, you really need to make sure you wear something called a wading belt. And this is just a simple wading belt that I have here. It's a little bit elastic, so it can kind of stretch and creates a tight fit around your waist. And it's just got a really simple buckle. Now, if you were in a pinch and you didn't have your wading belt, you forgot it at home, you could just use your regular leather belt. Anything that's going to keep the waders tight around your waist so that if you do fall in, they're not going to fill up with water. I've been in the unfortunate situation of falling in without a wading belt. And if your waders fill, especially if you have Gore-Tex type waders that are pretty loose and baggy, they can hold a lot of water. They will make you very heavy and you will not be able to control yourself in the water. So you can drown very easily. So very important you have one of these wading belts every single time. I usually keep 2 or 3 in my boat, and I keep an extra one in my Tupperware Sterilite bin that I keep all my wading gear in that sits in my truck. So make sure you have it adjusted properly so that it fits snug around your waist, and this will keep water from just freely filling up your waders if you do fall in. And do not get out in the water without a wading belt on for the day. It can be very dangerous. Another piece of safety equipment that we can bring with us for a day of fishing, especially if we're going to be fishing in the wintertime and we're going to be fishing alone, is a life jacket. So here I have 2 different styles that vary in price points. This here is just a regular, universal type 3, I think it is. Yeah, PFD. You can buy these at Bi-Mart or Walmart or wherever, and they're 15 or 20 bucks. These will work just fine for most applications. However, they can be a little bulky and you might not want to wear it all day because of that, because it's bulky and uncomfortable. And so another style life jacket they have out there is one of these inflatable life jackets. These are much more comfortable to wear. A couple things you do need to be aware of though, they have a little pull cord at the bottom, and so if you accidentally jerk on this and you're not in the water and you don't need it to inflate, it can inflate, and then you need to repack the life jacket and get a new CO2 cartridge. They have them right in here. I'm not gonna pull it all the way out, but there's a CO2 cartridge in here that inflates this life jacket if I pull on this cord. But these are a lot more comfortable to wear all day. A lot of people say, they're just never gonna wear one of those bulky type life jackets all day, so they just prefer to wear this. They are a lot more expensive. This is probably like $100 or 120 bucks, so big difference there. But I think it's important if you're gonna be walking out in the river, especially in the wintertime when the flows are up and high and you're gonna be by yourself, especially, you should probably be wearing a life jacket. It's not for the 99 times that you're out there and nothing happens. It's for that 1 in 100 times where you accidentally slip and fall and find yourself in a bad situation. So trust me, I have done it myself and not had a life jacket on, and it's not very fun, and you can very easily end up in a very dangerous situation. Another thing that's nice to have, not only just on your life jacket, but just if you're going out fishing, is a whistle. And so this is a safety whistle. It didn't come with this life jacket, I just attached it on. This is a great tool. If you've ever been out on the water and you're trying to get the attention of somebody else, and you'll notice that there's a lot of noises when you're right by the river. The water moving creates a lot of noise. A lot of times there's wind, which can drown you out. And so this whistle will create a pitch, a noise, that's loud enough to overcome a lot of that. So if you need a signal for help, you need to get the attention of somebody else, this can be really, really useful. And I would advise everybody to keep a whistle on them. If not on your life jacket, let's say that you've decided you're not gonna carry a life jacket, maybe just keeping one in your pack or in your tackle box or tackle bag or your first aid kit. They're pretty cheap. This is like $1.50. You can go to the store and buy packs of whistles in the sporting goods section. You get 2 for $1, so no reason not to have one. Another thing here that I also want to point out to the class is that with my waders, I will keep all of my waders and wading boots in a bin like this. Get the camera angle right. Here we go. And this way, I have all of my stuff contained. This is just a cheap Sterilite bin, a couple bucks at Dollar General. And that way, when they're in my truck or in my car, they're not getting water all over the place if they're wet. And then also, this way I can grab my bin and I know I'm gonna have my boots, my wading belt, and if I put my waders in on top, then I got my waders all in one area. So I know I'm not gonna forget any important part. Here's just a pair of wading boots. I like a pair of wading boots that's gonna have, especially for when I'm fishing in the winter, some good high ankle support so that I'm not gonna fall or hurt my ankle. And then also felt soled bottoms. So these have felt on the bottom, and that's gonna give me a lot more stick and a lot more traction. So it's just gonna make me a lot safer walking around in the river. So you can also toss your life jackets in there and boom, you got all of your wading and wading type safety equipment in one area. You're not gonna forget it because when you grab that bin, everything's in there. So it makes it a lot less mentally stressful when you're planning your fishing trip. All right, next thing we'll jump into here is our tackle, right? And so I'm not gonna go over, our slide bobber, this and that, but we already know what specific gear we're gonna need for whatever technique we decide we're gonna use. However, tackle organization is really important for being productive when we're out on the river and being, keeping ourselves organized, keeping ourselves fishing for more time. So I like to have a dedicated tackle bag when I'm going out fishing. This way I know that I have all of my gear in one area, whatever I may need, I'm not gonna leave it at home. And then also it does allow me too to carry some other items like a little dry box like this with my license and a pen, I can throw my phone in there, my sunglasses. So I have everything in one area. Now, this is what I carry. You can see it's a relatively large tackle bag. It fits 4 boxes. See here, I have different boxes with different stuff. This might not be appropriate for somebody that's going to be bank fishing a lot. I mostly fish out of a boat. And so when I used to bank fish a lot, I would carry instead some sort of waterproof backpack. This is actually a fanny pack, which is just a style that I like. Usually if I'm fishing from the bank, I don't carry a lot of gear with me. So this worked really well. You can see it's got a heavy duty zipper that seals all the way down, so all of my gear stays nice and dry in here. And this clips around my waist. The nice thing the thing that I really liked about this fanny pack style bag, so move it away a little bit here, is that because it went around my waist, this waist clip actually acted as a wading belt while I was fishing. And because it's waterproof, all my gear stayed nice and dry. So this sort of option, either a fanny pack or maybe just a backpack, is gonna be a good option if you're gonna be fishing on the bank a lot, versus, you know, if you're gonna be fishing out of a boat, something like a big boat bag to keep your large Plano boxes in would be more suitable. So just some of the difference there. I personally like to just have a waterproof pack if I'm gonna be steelhead fishing, because if my gear is getting wet and I don't remember to leave it sit out and dry, you know, all of my hooks and lures or beads could, you know, rust or get, you know, water built up or in and around them and cause issues with the gear. So, and knowing that I have a waterproof pack, it's gonna negate some of that stuff going on there. So, packs, gear, you know, always make sure when you have your gear pack that you have, you know, whatever it is you think you're gonna need for the day. Right now, my boat bag, I've been doing a lot of bead fishing, so you'll see in here, most of my boxes have different beads and soft beads and whatnot. And then I have another little box that has all of my rigging components for my slide bobbers, bobber stops, beads, swivels, snap swivels, weights, corkies, you know, because most of the fishing I've been doing recently has been bobber fishing or bobber dogging. So that's mostly what I have on me. And then I have another little bag with all of my fly gear in it, my indicators. All of this stuff we've already talked about, so like I said, I'm not gonna go super in depth, but just know, you know, having these style of boxes to organize your tackle and having some sort of bag, whether it's a tackle bag or a fanny pack or a backpack, is very useful for staying organized while you're fishing. So, you know, additionally in that bag, there's a couple other gear items you're gonna wanna have that's gonna make it a lot easier during the course of the day. These are just kind of the 3 very minimum gear pieces that you're gonna wanna have. Here, I have a pair of pliers. These are Leadmaster pliers. Remember we talked about in lecture, these are used for cutting pencil lead. So even if I'm not gonna be drift fishing, at least when I have these, I always have that option. And then I have my pliers here for unhooking fish or maybe taking a hook out of something, you know, if I snag a sweatshirt. I have just a cheap pair of scissors, and there's a lot of different options out there for cutting line. You can buy pliers that are specifically designed for cutting line. You can, or nippers, you know, in fly fishing. In most situations, I just like to have a cheap pair of scissors, so I can go to the dollar store and buy a couple packs of these, so I have 6 or 7 lying around, and they work really well. And say I'm using bait, cutting some bait up, if I'm conventional fishing, I have them handy, so you know, it's dual purpose and they work pretty well. And if I lose them, no big deal, because they're pretty cheap. The other gear item that I always want to have with me when I'm steelhead fishing is a hook file. There's several types of hook files. Personally, I like a diamond hook file, which is what this is. It's a large one, so it works well on larger hooks. You can also get much smaller ones. It just kind of depends. I kind of like this larger one if I'm bank fishing, because It's easy to grab onto if my hands are cold. I'm not gonna be worried about dropping it. Has a little attachment piece, loop here that I can attach it to something if need be, a retractor. And between these 3 items, I'm pretty covered on dealing with most situations in terms of re-rigging, unhooking a fish, sharpening a hook, whatnot. And those you can just keep, boom, right in your tackle bag. So some people may want to have also like a little pocket knife or a multi-tool, something along those lines. I usually, if I'm in my boat, carry a multi-tool with me, so it has a little knife on it, a pair of pliers, clippers, also a screwdriver, can opener and whatnot. But you know, that's kind of personal preference. I would say at a minimum, hook sharpener, pliers, line cutters, scissors. Another nice component to keep in your tackle bag, and I already mentioned this briefly, I mention it again here, is a little dry box like this. This here is a Pelican case, which is kind of a more expensive one. Here is just a generic dry box from, you know, Big 5. And these are really nice to have a couple of these around to keep things like maybe your fishing license if you have a paper license, or you could just put your phone in it if you don't have a waterproof case. You'll notice in this one I have a lot of paperwork. This is all my guiding paperwork here, so merchant mariner credential, guiding license, and some other stuff. So this is stuff that, you know, just as an angler you're not going to need to carry. But you'll also notice I keep a spare whistle in here for safety reasons, and also if I'm in a boat I need to have a whistle if it's over 16 foot. And then I keep a couple pens just tossed in here, and these are for tagging fish if somebody in the boat ends up having a paper license. If you have a paper license, definitely make sure you have a couple pens around, and sometimes they can just be useful if maybe I need to take notes on something or whatnot, whatever the reason may be. So keeping a couple of those around. Another great use for these waterproof cases, that's what I do with my second one here, is I have my sunglasses, which you should always have a pair of sunglasses if you're going out fishing. It's always good to have eye protection, you know, in case you set the hook and your line flies back at you, hits you in the face. If you're fly fishing, you always want to have sun protection or eye protection on. And so I like keeping these in a waterproof case, so when I go to pull them out, my glasses aren't soaking wet or fogged up. They're nice and dry and I can pop them on. I can also toss in extra stuff, you know, that maybe didn't fit in my other case, like an external charger,